an angel showed the Apostle John a great mystery. It was about a woman and a beast. This woman was called Babylon the Great, a mother of evil. She sat on many waters, which represent the peoples and nations of the world. She held a golden cup full of her disgusting and immoral acts against God. This woman was dressed in purple and scarlet clothes. She was covered with gold, precious stones, and pearls. She looked beautiful, but was corrupt on the inside. She was drunk with the blood of God's holy people. These were the ones who had testified about Jesus. John was amazed when he saw this sight. The angel then explained the mystery to John. The woman sits on a scarlet beast. This beast was covered in names that disrespected God and had 7 heads. The 7 heads represent 7 mountains where the woman has her throne. They also represent 7 kings. 5 of these kings have fallen. 1 is ruling now. The beast itself is an 8th king. It is connected to the 7 and is heading for destruction. Its power is great, but it will not last long. The beast and its 10 horns will come to hate the woman. They will turn against her and bring her to ruin, leaving her completely exposed and alone. They will consume her flesh and destroy her with fire. God has put this plan into their hearts to carry out his divine purpose and judgment upon her. The woman you saw is the great city. She rules over all the kings of the earth. Her influence spreads across the world, corrupting everyone she touches. After this, another angel came down from heaven. He had great authority, and his splendor illuminated the entire earth. He spoke with a mighty, booming voice. He shouted, "Fallen! Fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling for demons." Her great city was now a home for every unclean spirit. She had become a haunt for every unclean bird and every detestable animal. Her corruption had made her a place where only evil things could now live. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, following her wicked ways and desires. The merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries. They profited from her endless desire for wealth and material goods, becoming wealthy alongside her. Then a voice from heaven said, "Come out of her, my people." This was a call to separate from her wicked ways, to avoid sharing in her sins. "Do not receive any of her plagues," the voice continued. Her judgment was coming swiftly, and God wanted his faithful people to be safe from the coming wrath. For her sins are piled up to heaven. God has remembered her crimes and injustices. The time for her to pay for her evil deeds had finally arrived. "Give back to her as she has given," the voice commanded. "Pay her back double for what she has done." Her punishment was to be severe and just. Mix her a double portion from her own cup. The same evil she served to others would now be served to her, but twice as strong. To the extent that she glorified herself and lived in luxury, give her that much torment and grief. Her pride would be met with deep sorrow. In her heart she boasts, "I sit enthroned as a queen." She believed she was untouchable, secure in her power, and not a widow who would suffer. Therefore, in one day her plagues will overtake her. Death, mourning, and famine will strike her suddenly. She will be completely consumed by a raging fire. For mighty is the Lord God who judges her. Her destruction was not by human hands alone, but by the powerful judgment of God Almighty himself. When the kings of the earth who committed adultery with her see the smoke of her burning, they will weep. They shared in her luxury and sin. They will mourn for her from a distance. Terrified by her torment, they will cry out, "Woe! Woe to you, great city, you mighty city of Babylon! In 1 hour your doom has come." They will exclaim. The swiftness of her fall will shock and terrify them as they watch their source of power burn. The merchants of the earth will also weep and mourn over her. Their source of incredible wealth and trade had suddenly vanished into thin air overnight. No one buys their cargoes anymore. Their vast trade empire, built on her desires, had crumbled in a single moment, leaving them with nothing but loss. Their cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones, and pearls are now worthless. The foundation of their wealth had been destroyed along with the great city itself. Their fine linen, purple, silk, and scarlet cloth would no longer be sold. The demand for these luxury items disappeared with Babylon's fall from power. Their fragrant wood, ivory, and articles of costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble were without buyers. The entire global market she created was now completely gone. Their spices, incense, myrrh, and frankincense had no destination. The religious and luxurious practices she promoted had come to a sudden and violent end. Their wine, olive oil, fine flour, and wheat were no longer in demand. The basic elements of her feasts and celebrations were now just useless surplus. Their cattle, sheep, horses, and carriages had no one to buy them. The machinery of her commerce and her military might had ground to a halt. Even the bodies and souls of men were part of her trade. Her evil system treated human life as a commodity, which was now, thankfully, over. They will say, "The fruit you longed for is gone from you." All her delicacies and splendor have vanished, never to be seen or enjoyed again. The merchants who sold these things and gained their wealth from her will stand far off. They will be too terrified by her torment to come any closer. They will weep and mourn, crying out in their great sorrow. "Woe, woe to you, great city," they will say, lamenting their catastrophic financial ruin. They will remember how she was dressed in fine linen, purple, and scarlet. They will recall her glitter, adorned with gold, precious stones, and fine pearls. In 1 hour such great wealth has been brought to ruin, they will cry. The suddenness of her economic collapse will be a source of great shock. Every sea captain and all who travel by ship will also stand far off. The sailors and all who earn their living from the sea will watch. When they see the smoke of her burning, they will exclaim in disbelief, "Was there ever a city like this great and powerful city?" They will ask. They will throw dust on their heads in a sign of deep mourning. Weeping and wailing, they will cry out about the loss of their livelihoods. "Woe, woe to you, great city," they will shout in unison. "All who had ships on the sea became rich through your wealth. It is all gone. In 1 single hour she has been brought to ruin." Their words will echo the shock of the kings and the merchants at her sudden destruction. But in heaven, there will be rejoicing over her fall. The heavens, the holy apostles, and the prophets will celebrate the justice that has been served. For God has judged her and has avenged you. The suffering of the righteous at her hands had finally been answered with divine and perfect justice. Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone. He prepared to throw it into the sea as a powerful symbol. He hurled it into the sea and declared, "With such violence the great city of Babylon will be thrown down." Her end would be dramatic and final. "She will never be found again," the angel proclaimed. Her disappearance would be total, leaving no trace of her former power, glory, or existence. The sound of harpists and musicians will never be heard in you again. All the music and joy that once filled her streets will be silenced forever. The sound of flute players and trumpeters will cease. The celebrations and grand pronouncements that marked her life will be gone, replaced by an eerie quiet. No worker of any trade will ever be found in you again. The hustle and bustle of her commerce and industry will come to a complete stop. The sound of a millstone will never be heard in you again. The basic activities of daily life and production will completely and utterly cease to exist. The light of a lamp will never shine in you again. A deep and permanent darkness will fall over the city, both literally and also spiritually. The voice of bridegroom and bride will never be heard in you again. The joy of marriage and the promise of future generations will be extinguished forever. Your merchants were the world's most important people. Their global influence and wealth were a key part of your power, but now they are brought low. By your magic spell and deceptive arts, all the nations were led astray. You used deception to control and corrupt the entire world around you. In you was found the blood of prophets and of God's holy people. Your guilt was sealed by the violence you committed against the righteous ones. The blood of all who have been slain on the earth was found in her. Her system was responsible for immense suffering and death throughout all history. This great city represented a worldwide system of false religion and corrupt government. It was a symbol of all human rebellion against the true God. Her fall is a sign of God's ultimate victory over evil. It shows that no power, no matter how great, can stand against his divine authority. The kings of the earth who were allied with her were deceived. They sought power and pleasure, but they only found ruin in the end. The merchants who traded with her were blinded by greed. They built their fortunes on her corruption, and they lost everything when she finally fell. The sailors who served her were part of her global network. They helped spread her influence, but they could only watch as her empire burned. Her destruction was sudden and complete, happening in a single hour. This emphasizes the swift and decisive nature of God's powerful and final judgment. The world mourned her fall because they had benefited from her evil. Their sorrow was not for her, but for the loss of their own wealth. In contrast, heaven rejoiced because justice had been done. The prayers of the persecuted saints had finally been answered by a righteous and loving God. The symbol of the millstone shows the finality of her end. Just as a stone sinks into the sea, she will vanish from sight forever. The silence in the city signifies a complete end to human activity. No music, no work, no light, no marriage, only a permanent and desolate emptiness. Her great sin was pride, believing she was invincible. She sat as a queen, but her throne was built on a foundation of pure wickedness. She corrupted the nations with her idolatry and immorality. She led the world away from the true God and into a path of total destruction. She persecuted God's people, shedding innocent blood. This was her greatest crime in the eyes of God, and the primary reason for her judgment. The call to come out of her is a warning for all time. God's people must remain separate from the world's corrupt systems and its values. We must not be seduced by the promise of wealth and power. These are the very tools that Babylon the Great used to deceive the nations. The story of her fall is a promise of hope for the faithful. It shows that God will ultimately judge all evil and reward the righteous. No matter how powerful evil may seem, it will not last. God's kingdom is eternal, and it will triumph over all opposition in the end. The beast that carried her represents political powers that oppose God. These powers often seem strong, but they are destined for the same destruction. The 10 horns that turn on her show that evil destroys itself. The alliances of the wicked are unstable and will ultimately lead to their own ruin. God uses the wicked to carry out his own purposes. Even the actions of evil kings and nations are under his sovereign control and ultimate authority. The fall of Babylon is a central event in Revelation. It marks a turning point, clearing the way for the establishment of God's perfect kingdom. The detailed list of her cargo shows how extensive her influence was. She controlled every aspect of life, from luxury goods to basic necessities. Her trade in the souls of men is her most wicked commerce. It shows her complete disregard for the value and dignity of all human life. The lament of the merchants is purely selfish. They do not mourn the evil she did, but only the loss of their own personal profits. This highlights the emptiness of a life devoted to materialism. When wealth is gone, there is nothing left but sorrow and deep, unending despair. The rejoicing in heaven is a stark contrast to the mourning on earth. It shows the difference between a worldly perspective and a heavenly one. The apostles and prophets rejoice because God's name is vindicated. His justice has been proven before the entire universe, showing his faithfulness and power. The image of Babylon is drawn from the Old Testament. The ancient city of Babylon was a symbol of pride, idolatry, and opposition to God. Revelation uses this historical image to represent a future global system. This system will embody all the same evil characteristics as its ancient namesake. The fall of this system will be a cause for celebration. It will mean the end of oppression, injustice, and the persecution of God's people. It will pave the way for the marriage supper of the Lamb. This is a celebration of the union between Christ and his faithful followers, the church. The bride, the church, is dressed in fine linen, bright and clean. This linen represents the righteous acts of God's holy and faithful people. Unlike Babylon's gaudy attire, the bride's clothing is pure and simple. Her beauty comes from her righteousness, not from worldly wealth or corrupt power. The story serves as a solemn warning to all future generations. We must choose whom we will serve, God or the corrupt systems of the world. We cannot love both God and money. The fall of Babylon shows where a love of wealth and worldly luxury will ultimately lead every single time. The finality of her destruction is absolute. Nevermore is repeated to emphasize that her evil influence will be removed from the earth forever. The silence that follows her fall is profound. It is the silence of judgment, where all the noise of human pride has been completely stilled. The great city's end is a testament to God's sovereignty. He alone is the true king, and all other kingdoms will eventually bow before him. Thus ends the story of Babylon the Great's fall. It is a powerful message of judgment, justice, and the ultimate triumph of good over evil.